Hi everyone. So it's been a while since I've uploaded any videos onto YouTube, but I just wanted to upload a couple of videos over the next couple of weeks, which is going to look at Power Query and Power Pivot. And I guess the main reason for um, these, couple of videos is Power Query and Power Pivot exist both in Excel, which a lot of people still use for data analysis, and to an extent, there's no problem with that. When the issues start to arise is whenever you're starting to use large data sets and whenever you actually want to visualize the data. That's when you should be seriously considering Power BI. But both tools exist in Excel and Power BI, and they're essentially the exact same. So hopefully a lot of people will get some tips and tricks from these videos, and they'll be able to apply them to some real case scenarios. So getting to the point of this video, what this video is going to focus on, it's going to focus on using Power Query, which is mainly used to manipulate and transform data. And as I'm a previous accountant, if someone had told me that term 5, 6 years ago, I wouldn't have really known what that meant. Like, what is bad data, or what does it mean when you say transform, clean, or manipulate data? And this video is going to look at exact use case of why you would want to essentially transform the way that this data is stored. And we'll be using Power Query in firstly Power BI, and then I'm also going to show people how you can actually use it in Excel very, very quickly as well at the end. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. So I'm just going to jump straight into it and show why we want to basically, tweak the way that this data is stored. This is real data from a client, and it's GL account data. So we would be using, and I use this data to build a report like this. So this is a profit and loss report. We have a balance sheet as well. Here, if I open up the reading view, click on save, just give a bigger kind of a view. And the way we want our P&L to look is, we want it obviously to look like a profit and loss, but we want it to be dynamic. So if I come in here and if I look at, okay, what's my data look like for October and November of the financial year 2023, we want to be able to come in and select maybe 2 months at a time. We want to basically dynamically look at our profit and loss, in this example, any period that we want. And in order to do that, we do need to do quite a bit of work on the data side, and that's what I'm going to go through on this video. So if we look at the Excel spreadsheet, the first thing we'll notice is we have a list of all of these GL accounts, but we have a current balance, which is live based off today. This data is connected to a SQL server, and this is always updating based off live balances. But where it starts to get interesting is if you scroll to the right, we have like balance month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. Keep scrolling. It actually goes the whole way back to prior year month 5. So it has essentially the way that this data is stored, and the way that the software vendor has decided to store this data is to have a separate column for every single month up until the last 5 years. And where that becomes quite a problem is whenever you want to slice and dice and analyze that data. So what I've done is I've just trimmed this down to only look at the current year, and just to give an explanation of what these are. Another issue as well, before I give a quick explanation of what these columns are, is what if you don't understand the financial year, or you're not aware of what the financial year is? Most financial years will run from January till December. But in this example with this client, that actually runs from the 1st of October until the 30th of September. So that's another downside to the way that this data is stored. I actually use DAX and Power BI to change titles of these columns. I'll probably go through that in a separate video, or I will go through that in a separate video. But that's another data transformation step that we would want to be doing, because balance month 1 isn't very intuitive. It's not, what is balance month 1? When was that period, especially for new employees that are joining the company? So getting straight to it, what I've done is, again, I've trimmed it down to only show the current year data, and I'm going to connect that to Power BI, and I'm going to look at, first of all, the problem the way the data is stored, and then I'm going to look at how you solve that problem using Power Query. So I'm going to connect to the GL data trimmed Excel spreadsheet. I'm only going to connect to the first tab. So if I come back to this Excel spreadsheet, where we'll focus on the other tabs on upcoming videos will be Power Pivot in Excel and why I think it's much easier to do the exact same thing in Power BI. We won't be really looking at these other two tabs today on this video. Jumping back to Power BI, I'm going to connect to the first tab, which is the GL account data. Whenever we click on load, that's just going to load it directly to Power BI, but we do want to perform some transformation steps. Usually you would click on transform. We are going to go back into that, but I want to just show you guys what the data looks like before we do any of the manipulation steps and transformation steps. So let's look at the data. So it's going to look very similar to the Excel spreadsheet. Again, it's just going to be trimmed down to only show the current balance and then balance month 1 to 12. So if we just do a simple enough kind of filter this to only show, let's say only look at, let's say, loan interest. So this is going to be one specific GL account. So if we say loan interest, let's say personal, it's probably one of the most popular ones. So the current balance as of today, we're at the 5th of January 2025. So just under 3 months into the financial year, is 559,000. And that is how it's broke out into each individual month of the current year. So actually 4 months in, keep on scrolling. We obviously don't have any data yet because we haven't got to the financial year month 5 just yet. So if I jump into the canvas of Power BI and if I drag in that GL description, and again, we're only going to filter this to only look at the same account that we were looking at. So if I type in loan interest, filter it to show the personal. Now, this is where the problem starts. So your manager says, okay, what is the loan interest broken out by the current financial year? We want to see each month, how is it looking? How is it trending from month 1 right up until month 4, which is where we're currently at? If I change this to it's actually fine as a table at the minute, or I'll change it to a matrix. A matrix just gives a little bit more of a better view for this use case. So balance month 1, that's grand. I'll drag it in there so we can see, okay, yeah, our the revenue in month 1 was 178,000, and we know our current balance, if we drag that in here, is 559,000. So where the problem starts to arise is, if you notice, I have to keep constantly dragging each column in to the actual visual, and it doesn't offer any, dynamic filtering. So if we jump back to Power BI, you'll notice that I have a filter on the year, and I have a filter on the quarter, and I have a filter on the month name. And if I change this to, if you look at this data, if I add in December now, you'll see that the data then changes to show, if I just unselect December, you'll see the revenue for October and November combined is 374,000. Same period last year was only 283, so we're up on the same period last year. But if you look at, if you keep an eye on as of the previous month, that 374 will now be as of the previous month here. And what that's saying is, as of the up until, because we have December selected, so as of up until the end of November, it was 374,000, and that's how dynamic Power BI can be whenever you have your data formatted and manipulated and transformed correctly. Jumping back to Power BI desktop here, we obviously don't really have that because it's the way the data is stored. So getting to the point, what you can do is you can use Power Query to cleverly change how the data can be stored. So if I click on transform data, that opens up Power Query, and this is exactly how it will look in Excel. And the little tool that we want to do is, what we want to do is we want to select basically all of the columns that we want to unpivot. So if I click on this, so every single month we have a separate column. We're not going to worry about the current balance for now. What we're going to do then is we're going to right click. You can actually right click, and if you click on unpivot the columns, or sorry, unpivot only the selected columns, very important to do that. That's why you selected the ones that we only want to unpivot. What that's going to do is that's going to break the data into 2 separate columns. And you'll see now that I'm actually going to undo that because I had one column selected that I wasn't supposed to. So I'm going to go in here and select everything again. So month, I only want to select month 1 right through to 12. I had one column that I wasn't supposed to have selected there. So that's everything selected, nothing else selected, all good. So I'll go up here, right click, unpivot only the selected columns, and that's looking a lot better. So I'm going to change this to time period. I'm going to rename this and change this to time period. And you'll see straight away the benefits of this. So now I've made that step. I'm going to close and apply. And this is going to look a little bit funky now, right? So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to redo what I did. So I'm going to click on the matrix. And I'm going to drag in the description in here. I'm going to filter this to only show the loan interest. And this is where the real benefits start to arise. So loan interest, personal. Now, if I look at the actual data, I can see that I have only one column for my time periods. So I can actually use that as a filter. So if I come in and if I drag in my value, my total value, that's just going to be the sum of all of these. So balance month 1 to month 4. But what if I wanted to apply a filter to that? That's the benefit now of unpivoting those columns. So if I come in here and drag in my time period and change this to a filter, and if I just change it to a drop down, which is what I prefer to use. So again, your manager comes to you and says, okay, but what did the revenue look like in month 3 of the current financial year? Click on month 3. That will automatically update. What did it look like in month 1 and month 2 together? Dynamically, automatically updated. And hopefully people can see the benefits of that. That took 2 minutes to do. And we only did it for the current year. So you can imagine how much time you can save. I've obviously in this project that we've done for the client, I've obviously done it for all of the columns, which is 60 columns. So I've combined it all into basically 2 columns. And that allows the client to be able to go back 3, 4, 5 years and see, okay, what was our revenue in month or the full year in 5 years ago? And what is it, last year? How much has our revenue grown over the last 5 years? And it makes it a lot easier because we now have these filters here. So you can see I have 4 years as an option here. If I click on 2022, you can see that the data automatically gets updated. So that's what I wanted to cover today. And I'll just quickly show how you actually do it in Excel before we finish up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the same spreadsheet in Excel. And the first thing that you need to do within Excel is you need to select the whole. I'm going to just individually select it. So I'm going to drag this and I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to move over to the side. So everything's selected, all of the data, all of the columns, and I'm going to go to insert and I'm going to say table. And my table does have editors. That's quite important. So I'll select that. That's a must whenever you want to use Power Query within Excel. You need to have your data formatted as a table. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the data tab and I'm going to say from table or range. So that's basically saying I want to open Power Query and I want to use a certain table that's in this Excel spreadsheet. And that's this table now. So again, it should look quite similar straight away to Power Query within Power BI. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, just select each month. Oh, I unselected that. Scroll over a little bit more, make sure that we get every single month that we want to unpivot. Right click, unpivot only the selected columns, and exactly the same. So if we go time period, value, close and apply. And now we have our data a little bit better formatted. So if we wanted to, again, select this, something I actually never really do anymore is use Excel or pivot tables. Come in here, click on insert, click on pivot table from the table arrange. That's table 1, new worksheet, fine. And now again, we have our description over here. We can put that in our rows. We can only look at the loan interest. And we'll make sure that we're only looking at the personal one just to do a like by like comparison. But now we can say our value in the values. So there's our total. But what if we want to put our time period in the filters? That's where you can start using your filters. So again, very, very similar to Power BI. If we only want to look at month 1, month 2, select both boxes, click OK, and there, we're now only looking at month 1 and month 2. That is basically impossible to do as dynamically and quickly whenever the data is formatted as it is in this spreadsheet. So everything broken out into 60 different columns. So hopefully people found that helpful. Following along from this, I'll probably move on to Power Pivot in Excel, which will focus on these two tables. And just to give people a little preview of what we'll be covering, some people may come in here and they may be like, okay, I can see that this, if we look at, come in here and filter for the loan interest, and we look at loan interest personal, some people might be like, okay, I can see GL group ID 66, and then you might obviously insert a column here, and you might say, okay, what GL group name is this? And you might say equals VLOOKUP. So you want to look up this in here, and then you would want to say, give me back the second column. So you want to say 2, 0. I'm going through this very, very quickly. That's how you would bring in essentially the group name. So what is that group? What's the GL group? And then you would also want to bring in the GL type. So if we filter on this, and if we go filter on the GL group 66, so what is the GL type of that account? Come in here. So you can already see how manual this is. So GL type ID is 1. So if we go to the GL type table, so we can see straight away that that's income. There's a much quicker and a much better way to do what I just did, which is essentially using VLOOKUPs across different tables. And that is Power Pivot in Excel. But even better again, it's just building a data model in Power BI. And that's what the next video will focus on. So yeah, hopefully some people got some benefit from this and they can take some learnings and apply it to their own use cases. Thanks, guys.